Aloha! Lisa here. I am the owner of Upside Down Pilates and Nourishment and the creator of the Joint Pain Eliminator program. This is where I help women eliminate joint pain so that they can get back to living an active life that they love. This week on Joint Pain Eliminator, we are going to talk about diet and lifestyle recommendations to balance our vaginal microbiome. So this is part of phase 2 in my Vaginal Health Reset Program. And this is the third episode in our vaginal microbiome series. So if you haven't seen the other 2 episodes, go back and watch those other 2 episodes for more detail on some of the things that we talk about in the beginning. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to know this information. You can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to connect with me in different platforms. All right, let's start with a quick review of what we've learned over the past 2 times. What is a healthy vaginal microbiome? In a healthy vaginal microbiome, it is lactobacillus dominant and very low diversity. So we primarily want our vaginal microbiome to have lactobacillus in it, and we do not want a lot of diversity in our vaginal microbiome. The vaginal microbiome has been put into different state types. So state type 1 is the Lactobacillus crispatus dominant. It is one of the healthiest community state types. It has a low pH, it's less than 4, and it maintains stability throughout a woman's menstrual cycle. State type 2 is going to be Lactobacillus gasseri dominant. It's not a common state type. It's associated with a vaginal pH of 4.4, so a little bit higher. Women with type 2 may transition into type 1 during pregnancy, but that's uncommon. And it's rarely associated with disease states, so that's very good. State type 3 is Lactobacillus inners dominant. The pH is higher, it's higher than 4.5, and it is associated with both good vaginal health and dysbiosis, but that depends on what type of bacteria are present alongside of the lactobacillus inners. It is associated with high baseline concentrations of pro-inflammatory molecules, and those can damage the vaginal mucosa. So not as good as type 1 or type 2. Then we move into community state type 4. This is non-lactobacillus dominant, and remember, we want to be lactobacillus dominant. So this has got a high risk of bacterial vaginosis. It's the least stable and fluctuates the most in composition throughout the woman's menstrual cycle. It's highly associated with bacterial vaginosis, sexually transmitted infections, preterm birth, endometriosis, pelvic inflammatory disease, miscarriage, stillbirth, PCOS, all those types of things that go wrong in our reproductive system. It has a high prevalence of non-lactic acid producing species, tends to have low organic acid production, high pH, and vaginal mucosal disruption. So that is the community state type that is most difficult to handle if you have that. State type 4, the Lactobacillus jenseni dominant, it's very uncommon. The pH is 4.2, so a little bit lower, and it's considered healthy, but not a lot is known about it. We also talked about the gut-vaginal microbiome crosstalk, and that is basically where the gut microbiome and the vaginal microbiome influence each other because of the close proximity of the anus and vagina. In addition to that, we talked about how bacteria that is found in the gut that may translocate into the vagina can be pathogenic. And it's also seen in the urinary tract and urinary tract infections. So all of that down there, if you have pathogens going on and an imbalance of the good bacteria, can be affected. Let's now review what damages the vaginal microbiome. And again, if you want more detail on this, go back to the first episode to learn more detail. But age, hormone levels, so puberty, menopause, and pregnancy, that all affects what's inside of the vaginal microbiome. Sexual habits. So sex with a new partner is linked to increased bacterial diversity. And remember, we don't want increased bacterial diversity. It's also seen that vaginal intercourse following receptive anal intercourse is linked to bacterial vaginosis. Medications such as contraceptives, hormone replacement, and antibiotics negatively affect the vaginal microbiome. Use of vaginal products, so things like lubricants and different cleaning products. The vagina is a self-cleaning organ, and use of vaginal cleaning tools disrupt our vaginal microbiome's normal balance and have been associated with bacterial vaginosis. Diet. So vitamins A, C, D, E, beta-carotene, calcium, zinc, selenium are all associated with a healthy vaginal microbiome. High vitamin A, C, and E are associated with decreased bacterial vaginosis. And things like cranberry juice are good for us because those flavonoids protect the urinary system from infections. Stress. Cortisol can lead to vaginal dryness by reducing estradiol 17B biosynthesis in the ovaries. And then our dryness will impact the pH. And remember, we want to have a lower pH, as well as tobacco use. So the vaginal microbiome can be easily disrupted by all of these different factors. Now let's get into the new information. What actions do we take? How do we balance our vaginal microbiome? Let's look at diet. Okay, so we need to avoid inflammatory foods, especially the week before and during our period. What does that mean? Things, bad fats, bad seed oils, canola oil, corn oil, garbage oils. And that's going to be excessive sugar and refined carbohydrates. So bad fats, bad sugars, bad carbohydrates. We want to avoid them. We want to increase fermented foods. So that's going to be things like kefir, yogurt, kimchi, kombucha, sauerkraut, fermented ginger carrots. You could ferment any kind of vegetable. So those are the types of things that we want to increase. We also want to increase flavonoids. So flavonoids are various compounds found naturally in many of our fruits and vegetables. And then these flavonoids are rich in antioxidant activity, and they can help your body ward off everyday toxins. So eat your fruits and veggies. All right, we want to incorporate low glycemic foods because that is going to help stabilize our blood sugar. We want to incorporate those foods that have or specific nutrients that are associated with a healthy microbiome, vaginal microbiome. So that's going to be vitamin A, C, D, E, beta-carotene, calcium, zinc, selenium. Those are all associated with a healthy vaginal microbiome. And like I said before, high vitamin A, C, E, and E are associated with decreased bacterial vaginosis. So you need to eat a good, healthy diet to make sure that your vaginal microbiome is not diverse. We want it to be lactobacillus dominant. Let's see, what else? A high glycemic load and unhealthy fats are also linked to higher incidence of bacterial vaginosis. And then we want to incorporate or drink cranberries and cranberry juice because the flavonoids actually protect the urinary system from infections. So that's fantastic. All right. let's see here. Dysbiosis can increase in the week before menstruation. So vaginal dysbiosis is what we're talking about. And sometimes during the week of menstruation. During these weeks of a woman's cycle, it is acutely important to consume anti-inflammatory foods and to try to eat candy, sweets, processed meats, and bad fats in moderation, or just eliminate them if you can, all right? So that is what we have for diet. Hey, now we're going to look at some different lifestyle factors that we want to avoid or minimize to help our vaginal microbiome stay healthy. One is going to be we want to avoid sitting in chlorinated water for extended periods of time. I bet you didn't think of that one. So chlorine has antimicrobial properties that can disrupt the vaginal microbiome. We want to wear loose-fitting, breathable undergarments. You've probably heard of that before because wearing tights and leggings and sweating can sometimes cause our yeast infections. So we want to make sure to change undergarments after engaging in physical activity and excessive sweating. So you want to keep that area inhospitable for yeasts and candidas to grow. Now we're going into sexual habits, okay? Sex with a new partner is linked to increased bacterial diversity. So we want to limit our sexual partners, all right? Vaginal intercourse following receptive anal intercourse is linked to bacterial vaginosis. So that means we either want to avoid anal intercourse. If you do engage in anal intercourse, you don't then want to have vaginal intercourse after that because that is going to diversify your microbiome and cross-pollinate it with what's coming on from your gut microbiome more than it really needs to be done. So limit sexual partners and avoid anal intercourse. Medications. So medications really can negatively affect our vaginal microbiome. So we want to avoid the use of contraceptives, hormone replacement, and antibiotics. And antibiotics are horrible for your gut microbiome and they're horrible for your vaginal microbiome. So you want to avoid using them unless absolutely necessary. And there are times where it is necessary, but you want to avoid it as much as possible. Now let's talk female products. Okay, so we want to avoid using lubricants and cleaning products. Putting things like that in there disrupt the vaginal microbiome and disrupt the pH. Tampons, not a good idea, especially if they're not organic, because then you're literally putting glyphosate. If you have non-organic tampons, you're going to be basically inserting glyphosate into your vagina with the cotton. The cotton is not organic. It's going to be covered in glyphosate and probably other pesticides that were on the cotton. And so remember, glyphosate was first patented as an antibiotic. So it's like putting an antibiotic in your vagina. And then we also want to avoid non-organic maxi pads. So you want to make sure that your maxi pads, if it has cotton on it, you want it to be organic so it doesn't have anything that's going to disrupt your vaginal microbiome. Are some supplements that have been found to help support a healthy vaginal microbiome. Fish oil. So fermented cod liver oil is going to be fantastic for your vaginal microbiome as well as for your gut. And there's the gut healing fish oil that we can get from microbiome labs that I think is absolutely perfect. But there are several different types of fish oil on the market that you can get. Those are just the two that I really enjoy. And fish oil is great for your cardiovascular system, your gut microbiome, your entire body, and now we know it's fantastic for your vaginal microbiome as well. Oral probiotics. Okay, so remember, anything that happens in our gut is going to affect what's going on in our vagina, in our urinary tract infection, in our kidneys, everything down there. So having oral probiotics is going to help support the gut along with the vaginal microbiome. There's research right now in clinical trials to see if the bacillus spores has any mechanisms that might improve vaginal composition and kill bad vaginal species. So there is research going on right now. I would definitely recommend anything with lactobacillus spores in it, along with just the bacillus like HU58 megaspore. I'm sure it's going to be helpful for your gut microbiome, and it'll be great to see the research coming out about how it's helping with the vaginal microbiome. This is new to me. Sea buckhorn oil. Isn't this interesting? So sea buckhorn is a miracle berry from the Himalayas, and it offers a non-estrogen solution for vaginal dryness. The rare omega-7 is suggested to stimulate the regeneration of vaginal mucosa, which directly increases vaginal secretion and hydrates the vaginal linings. So sea buckhorn oil, very interesting. Here's another new one to me, boric acid vaginally. So the boric acid may help break down potential biofilms. And then, like we said before, cranberry extract, it's going to help with the flavonoids. It's going to help keep the urinary tract infection from happening. Okay, now, how do we test? Can we test for our vaginal microbiome to see what community state type we are, how healthy we are? Yes, we can, and this is why I'm so excited about this. So there is a new vaginal health kit out from Microbiome Labs, which I am happy to share with you. And it will show you what community state types you are, and it will also show you what the composition of your vaginal microbiome is. And then you'll also get diet, lifestyle, and supplement recommendations specifically for what's going on in your body. And that paired with a gut microbiome map, Microbiome Labs has one called Biome Effects, but there are many companies that do these as well, but that's the one that I particularly like. It will map your gut microbiome, tell you what's going on in your gut microbiome, and then you can compare what's going on with the vaginal microbiome and the gut microbiome and see how they correlate with the symptoms or the health complaints that you're having. So I am very excited about looking at my results of both of these tests together and seeing if it can give me even more information about how to become even more healthy. Okay, let's review what some of the symptoms of the vaginal microbiome imbalance are. They're going to be things like bacterial vaginosis, urinary tract infections, yeast infections, pelvic inflammatory disease, pregnancy complications, things like miscarriage and stillbirth, and other fertility issues like infertility, PCOS, endometriosis, sexually transmitted diseases, gynecological cancers, and toxic shock syndrome. These are all symptoms of a vaginal microbiome imbalance. So who is going to benefit from balancing the vaginal microbiome? Well, anyone who has any of those symptoms. So keep in mind that past vaginal health conditions are most likely resulted in antimicrobial treatments. So that's going to be like antibiotics. And the antibiotics would have caused some harm to the vaginal microbiome. So if you've had one of these vaginal related conditions and you took antibiotics from it, you're going to need to go in and rebalance what's going on in the vaginal microbiome. What's great is with the Vaginal Health Kit, we can look at what your current community standard type is, and then we can look at how we can support the gut and the vaginal microbiome by knowing what your type is. Other people that can really benefit from balancing the vaginal microbiome is going to be pregnant women. All right, so group B strep, if you have not heard of this, it's reported, if it's reported in opportunistic bacteria section, then we can, in the vaginal microbiome kit or the vaginal health kit, then we can take steps to get ahead of the infection. And why do you want to do that? In the US, group B strep bacteria are the leading cause of meningitis and bloodstream infections in newborns' first 3 months of life. In the U.S., on average, each year, about 930 babies get early onset group B strep, and about 1,050 get late onset group B strep. Newborns are at increased risk for group B strep if their mothers test positive for the bacteria during pregnancy. 4 to 6% of babies who develop group B strep will die. And I'm all about not having babies die. So knowing that ahead of time and taking steps to rebalance the vaginal microbiome if you're pregnant or if you're planning to get pregnant can be extraordinarily helpful, life-saving even. All right, so if you have any of these things, I have created a wonderful new program to help you balance your vaginal microbiome. In this program, you can learn what's in your vaginal microbiome. You'll also learn what's in your gut microbiome. You'll learn what community state type you are, and then us together, but I will devise a plan to rebalance your vaginal microbiome. This is called the Vaginal Health Reset Program. So if you are interested in this and you want to learn more about it, just click on the vaginal microbiome link. You're going to enter your email, and then I'm going to send you more information about the program in a return email. So I'm just very excited about this. So if you have any of these problems, I really do recommend, doing some functional lab testing and seeing what kinds of changes that you can make to help rebalance your vaginal microbiome. So next week, we are going to look at diet for joint pain. And I think I'm going to do a 4-part series on diet. The first part, we're going to look at different kinds of diets and the pros and cons of them. And then the second part, we're really going to dig into the type of diet that I have found to be super helpful for people with joint pain, pretty much any sort of autoimmune condition, weight loss, any of that type of thing. But I'm going to focus on the joint pain part of it. And then I want to do one on solanine and nightshades for joint pain. So this is something that can be very individual for joint pain, but then also with autoimmune conditions. They can really be aggravated with the solanine and the nightshades. And then I want to do another one on gluten sensitivity and celiac disease, how they're actually just a progression of the same issue and what needs to be done to deal with them and how that contributes to joint pain along with autoimmunity and everything else because it causes leaky gut. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that is what I have coming up for you in the next few weeks. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I am trying to address all of them as much as I can. And then don't forget to click on the vaginal microbiome link if you're interested to learn more about your vaginal microbiome. And as always, grab your Joint Pain Eliminator Starter Kit, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend or loved one, comment on your thoughts, and thank you so much if you're still here taking the time to spend with me. You now know more than your doctor and your OB-GYN about your vaginal microbiome. Feel free to share this with them as well. And I really look forward to seeing you next week. Aloha!